Morning, it is Sunday. I've driven an hour to get to work, and all the way along the weather has been variable. Let's say it's been either showering or threatening to. It's actually dry here at the moment, which is good. I'm really happy with everything I did yesterday. That's great, and continuing on in that same vein, I'm going to do that bit now with the pattern part I made up ages ago. So I'm going to weld that in. I'm going to trim it down to width a bit more, I think. Hammer out that end and put the gentle curve in. Bring that bit of boot floor up. Chop off what I don't need, and then yeah, get all the levels right. I think that's going to be the most important thing. Then weld it in. But because the weather's so suspect, I'm probably not going to do massive amounts of chatting and videoing. It's going to be more get the hell on with it. I've been trimming and shaping this bit. So I hammered the bit that I spent ages putting a lovely profile in. Hammered that bit flat because I only needed about 10 inches of it. I've chopped that narrower so that it'll just sit in there, and then I started bending that end up. It's actually a bit of a puzzle because I need to form a return somewhere on there that way and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do it because it'll be on a curve as well, so I might just lop it off, and then if I need a flange return I'll weld one on. If not, I'll just seam weld down the back. Because there's so much metal there, it's not going to bend or move, and the only reason it's got a flange on it from factory is because they spot welded it together, whereas this isn't factory, it's me in a car park, so I'm not sure I need to do that. But anyway, it's a bit of a slowly catchy monkey type deal because I don't want to chop too much off because then I'll be pissing in the wind having to add bits on again. Equally so, I want this to be kind of neat. So yeah, it's not worth recording, it's just time consuming and irritating. Really getting somewhere close now. I've taken quite a lot more meat off. Excuse me. Don't worry about that bit of blue floor being low. I deliberately bent it out of the way. It should be about 10 mil above that line, because on the back side of here I've just folded down some tabs. Basically had enough meat that I could slide the whole thing forward and up. I need to take a bit more off there, which I'll do in a second, but what I think I might do is like ordinarily if I had really good access I'd tack this in, start welding up there, hammer that bit flat, chop off the excess and then weld that bit on, but I won't be able to get in there with the cutting disc, so I'm going to have to chop it off now. So I'm going to go get my marker pen, draw a line, chop it off, clean all this up, get the welder out and gob it on. Thought I would show you what I'm using for cleaning up stuff like that, where you've got actually quite good metal but with bits of rust, paint, and when you want clean metal. Rather than using a sanding disc, which actually takes the metal away and leaves you with a thinner thing to weld to, I'm using strip and clean discs, which are kind of, I don't know actually what it is, it's like some kind of embedded polymer or fiberglass or I don't know, but anyway they work brilliantly. Just shove them on the grinder. That helps if you plug it in. So you don't get any sparks because it's not actually sparking the steel, it's just abrading the surface, and it helps show up where you've got rust and stuff as well, whereas the grinding it makes it all go shiny and you might lose the fact you've actually got rust there. And it's just, I don't know, quite quick, easy, makes a bit of dust. You do have to be careful that you don't catch an edge because this stuff shatters and breaks off in big chunks. A bit different to a sanding wheel or a grinder, so definitely wear goggles, is all I'm going to say. So I've just been in here with the die grinder to clean out those few pockets of rust that we had, just surface stuff really. Then in that corner, because I couldn't get in there with the sander, same really, just kill off any remaining rust, make it look pretty. Now I'm going to go over with some weld through primer. And then we're ready for welding. Annoyingly, right as I've started wanting to get on with some welding, well, that hasn't rained, it's getting windy, which is not good for your shielding gas and nice welds, particularly if you're running out of gas as well. But we'll give it a go and see what happens. This is a bit of a pain in the arse actually. Access isn't great. Because I've got the car so high up, it's actually quite hard to lean over. And I'm having to feed the harness through where the tail light was. I don't really want to put the car down on the ground because I'll only have to jack it up again in a minute. So I'm going to persevere for the moment, but it might be that to weld this nicely, I do in fact have to put the wheel back on and drop it on the ground. In fact, why don't I just do that? Well, I had a compromise with the lazy side of myself. I've still got it on axle stands. I didn't have to put the wheel on, but it is now a lot lower and I can actually reach stuff. The other benefit is it's made me think about blocking the wind a bit more, and I've got these boot panels, which they're not going to be completely effective, but they should do something. There we go. Right, I shall continue the weldathon. For whether you can see, but that's all looking quite nice. I'm gonna probably have to hammer that flange out a bit or push that hole in. That will be very hard because that is now incredibly solid. But I just won't weld anymore in that corner until I've sorted that bit. You can already feel how much stiffer the floor's getting. I think we actually have a small fire. That's why sometimes it's a good idea to clean the underseal off. I'm not bothering because it's better to burn it, in my opinion, if you don't care, because it's easier to flake off afterwards. Otherwise it just smears, whereas it's now actually carbonising nicely, which will mean it will unbond from the bottom of the car, and then I can go along with a wire brush or something and flick it off afterwards. Right, I'm just going to have to stop. That's seriously annoying. But I I'm out of gas. That is super annoying. Not a lot I can do. I'm going to clean that up. There's no point putting red oxide on it or Bonder primer because I'd have to sand it all off. So I might wire brush that off and put some zinc on it. What I can do is, because that area is now so solid, I can start making the patches and other bits to go in here. That hopefully should be one nice big flat plate cut in about there all the way along, and should be quite an easy repair to do. The only slightly complicating factor will be putting a return on the bottom side around that curve, but I think I'll do it in little straight sections rather than a complete long length. Then I also want to make up my panel for going from that skinny bit there in between the two, or however it should have been joined. I think originally this panel would have come down and then sat on that one, and then this one would have gone in there, but I'm going to do it the other way around. I'm just going to make a section of steel, a strip, probably not even to the end. I'll probably just weld that bit there. I don't know, I'm still thinking out loud really, but yeah, a piece of steel bodged in there up onto that bit, and then this bit will be welded onto it as well. Yeah, I'm going to have a cup of tea now, wait for that to cool down, then I'll toss a load of zinc on it. Zinc applied, looks quite good. It's one thing I've spotted which probably isn't quite right, and only you and I will know, but this cross goes straight for the middle and straight across there. This one, my new one, goes over there, so probably it wanted to all be pissed around that way a bit, but by the time this has got more bituminous panels on it, then you're never going to know, so it doesn't really matter. Just, I know little things like that do bug me somewhat, but in the grand scheme of things, that is really quite satisfying to do. Oh, look at that. See, people say Rover SD1's rust. Look at that. No rust in this thing at all. This is the benefit of it still being cold. It's, was it March? If it was summer, this would be a right arse to get off. As it is, it's really quite easy now. Excuse me while I indulge myself. That again is all damage from tow bar bodgery, which shouldn't be there. That should be a nice crisp line. That should all be down a bit, I think. Maybe not, I don't know. There was obviously some sort of plate there, and I think it's all been crushed up slightly. There we go. Right, I'm bored now. I was going to do more bits over there, but I actually have work to do, which is annoying to say on a Sunday, but pays the bills. Also, this coronavirus is crap because there's no football to listen to as well. It was meant to be Tottenham Man United today, which would have been a good one. Never mind. See you later. Okay, I lied. I haven't quite packed up. I found a rusty scabby bit, so I thought I'd poke it. This is the rain gutter, obviously. It's a completely separate part, and it goes on all the way along there, blah, 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 blah. You saw me where I joined it in here. When I took the window out, I found some grot and rust, and I thought, oh, well, I'll just rub it down and treat it. But actually, there was rust in between the two panels, so I've just cut it open with a really ground down cutting disc. It's always handy having some really worn ones because they can fit in tiny spaces where otherwise you wouldn't get if you still had one that was its original 115mm diameter. But anyway, I've been poking around at this. So even if I had gas, it's so windy now, Jesus, there's no way I would have been able to weld anything. So yeah, I'm just still in the poking investigatory stage, but I think that's going to be okay with just a bit of a clean up and then welding a couple of little fillets in. Probably doesn't even need them, if I'm honest, but it'd look weird if I didn't. Plus I don't think the window seal would sit very nicely if it didn't have a uniform surface to go on. Really been hacking into that with the grinder. Exposed as much as I can really get to without taking that whole thing off, and I'm not going to bother doing that because actually that's really nice. Even in the gutter, the seal where I've cut through it there, but actually the majority of that panel's okay. This, if you remember, I could have put on from the new panel, but I chose not to because actually it's really good. So I'm going to get some Hydrate 80 and treat it. Really am going home in a minute. Just tossed a load of Hydrate 80 in there. That's its second coat. I've also flooded that seam, pretty much poured it in and just tossed a couple of other bits on just to stop it from flash rusting anymore. Yeah, so I'm gonna go home.